Okay, guys, so today we have some freshly announced White Forest support. One of the cards is actually good, one of them is somewhat interesting, and the others I think are irrelevant. So let's go over the garbage cards first. Also, if you're new to the channel, what I try to do is give a slightly more unique or useful take on stuff, and because I'm covering White Forest, I'm going to cover this naturally. There were a couple things that confused me about these cards, and I first just checked to see, normally I just will make the video immediately, but I checked to see what other YouTubers had said, and it reminded me that there's so many videos of people just saying, like literally reading off the card effect and saying, oh, this is broken, and then continuing to talk, and it's like not even broken, and like, bro, this content is trash. So I'm going to try to not do that, but if you have any criticisms, let me know in the comments below so that I can, change it or make the content better. Okay, let's start with the garbage cards. So like the Diabell. So this is this card. I think this might be a Stellar, I think. So if a spell/trap cards is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, now just so that we're all clear here, these cards do not send spell or traps to the grave by card effect. They send them as cost. So if you send like a spell or trap with LZ, it will not trigger this card, if this translation is correct. But anyhow, if a spell or trap is sent to the graveyard by card effect, you can set a spell or trap from your hand or graveyard, but it cannot be activated this turn. There could be some shenanigans with this where you like use a Foolish Burial, Goods, and you dump a Floodgate, and then you are able to trigger this and you bring back the Floodgate and set it. But during your opponent's main phase, you can banish 3 spells/traps from your graveyard, including this card, special summon 1 Diabell monster from your hand or grave. I'm assuming that this will become part of like a larger archetype that is to do with the Diabell stuff, and this will be searchable, but as far as like White Forest or Azamina decks are concerned, this is not searchable, so this doesn't matter. Okay, the other spell, Diabell spell, is Play the Diabell. So that's this one. And this says, if a spell/traps is sent to the graveyard to activate a card or effect, so that actually will trigger off of like our White Forest cards. You can send an illusion or spellcaster monster from your hand, deck, or extra deck to the graveyard. During your main phase, you can banish 3 spell/traps from your graveyard, including this card, special summon a Diabell monster from your hand or graveyard. Again, this is not searchable, so this doesn't concern us. Okay, let's look at the trap now. So Sinful Spoils Awakening. So this is an actual Sinful Spoils card, which means that it is searchable off of... so this one adds Azamina or Sinful Spoils card, and this one adds Sinful Spoils, sets a Sinful Spoils spell or trap. So this is searchable in Azamina. It's searchable in anything that plays Wanted. If you're playing White Forest Azamina, this is searchable. If you control a level 5 or higher illusion monster, this part is easy to achieve, and your opponent controls 3 or more monsters, that's trash. Target up to 3 cards they control, return them to the hand. So I don't know why if you can target 3 cards, up to 3 cards, it doesn't say if your opponent controls 3 or more cards. Because obviously that would be easier to meet. Like if your opponent activates a field spell, searches a monster, whatever, that's another card. But this is like so specific. I don't know what decks in the meta are forced to go this wide with 3 monsters that they, would do that without just being able to avoid playing into this. So this seems like trash. If you control a level 5 or higher illusion monster and this card is in your graveyard, you can set this card but banish it when it leaves the field, but I don't want to because it's trash. And you can only use one of the effects per turn and only once a turn, and I also don't want to do that because it's trash. Okay, so now let's go on to the Sinful Spoils of a White Forest. So this is connecting lore-wise and game mechanics-wise Sinful Spoils with White Forest. If you control a Fiend, Illusion, or Spellcaster monster, so now this is looking a lot better. This is way easier to do. Activate one of these effects. Special summon 1 Fiend, Illusion, or Spellcaster monster from your hand. Okay, so here's the thing. If you could search Diabells, you could summon the Diabells. I think probably what this will be used for is Degeneracy, because remember that Arciela can search any light spellcaster monster. And guess what's a light spellcaster monster? Jaugen the Spiritualist. Here's what's different about this than before. You could always have searched Jaugen the Spiritualist, but the problem was you would have to search Jaugen the Spiritualist, and then you would have to normal summon Jaugen. So that means, like, if you're playing an actual White Forest deck with, like, triple Stellar, triple Sylvie, for example, or even slightly lower ratios than that, this conflicts with your normal summon. And even if you're not playing those ratios, you're probably going to be searching a Sylvie or an Stellar in your combo, and still you're going to normal summon. Or if you're, like, playing it as a sub-engine, you may still be normal summoning with something else. So this was, like, really heavily committing to the floodgate. And then it's like, okay, if they just imperm your Jowgen and then continue playing, you've probably sacrificed a bunch of resources or efficiency to get to this point. And so that's not good. But this is different now, because even though this is not like super resource efficient, if you did search the Jowgen off of the Arciela, you can set this card, because this is a quick play card, and in your opponent's turn, you can decide when to summon it. So it's not even like Dark Ruler or Droplets beats this per se, because you could hold the quick play spell and then special summon this, later into the turn or whatever. And it's really unlikely that, if you give them one or maybe two special summons, this will all of a sudden not be useful, because like worst case scenario, they have to go battle phase and run over this. So I don't know. This seems crazy. This seems like actually good, like actually useful. Do you main deck this? I don't know. I think that you put Jowgen in the side at 1, and you put this in the side at 1. But we're not done. So the other effect that you could choose to activate instead of special summoning a Fiend, Illusion, or Spellcaster from your hand is fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material. Okay, obviously you can make Guardian Chimera with this, and because Guardian Chimera would be summoned with a spell card, you would be able to use the effect, but this is very inefficient. Like, using monsters from your hand or field, and I don't know, it feels like you'd have to make Guardian Chimera with like the draw 2 pop 1 or something to not hurt off of that. Maybe it's not bad, but if you're putting in, I don't know, maybe there is space for the Guardian Chimera too, but I feel like this is just not very resource efficient. I think if you're going to be fusion summoning in your opponent's turn, you often would want to summon, because you're playing, remember, we're going to be playing Azamina anyhow, especially because of the last card that I haven't showed you yet. You probably want to summon like a Sol out of turn, or maybe if you didn't get to your Ilia Sylvia because your combo is interrupted or whatever, you probably want to do that. And then it's like you already have Azamina Debtors, and this card is already naturally searchable in the Azamina archetype. Like you can search it off of the Murcielago, because this adds a Azamina or Sinful Spoils card from your deck to your hand. Or if you were getting there through the Wanted engine, this would be getting you the Deception, and then you could still get to Murcielago if you wanted. And as we'll see in a second, there's another way to search Azamina cards now. So yeah, I feel like Debtors is probably just better for the fusion summon effect, unless you specifically want to summon a non-Azamina fusion monster. But yeah, I feel like the real power part of this card is that you can Jowgen on your opponent's turn after siding. So this would be a side deck card, I think. But I don't know. If you guys disagree, let me know. And then the last part, obviously we like to see, is if it's sent to the graveyard to activate a monster effect, you can set it. So that's good, because, otherwise it would just be, we would have to like get it back off of Diabel instead of it just resetting itself for free. So I think this is good, but probably side deck card. Okay, now guys, finally, the actual broken card is Azamina LZ of the White Forest, which maybe means that we will get an Azamina, a Stellar of the White Forest. Or who knows, because it's Konami, so maybe we won't. So this is an Azamina and a White Forest card. It's an illusion monster, light attribute, 0 attack, 0 defense, level 2. It is not a tuner. I feel like this would have been, well, would it have been better if it was a tuner? You could very easily make Herald of the Arc light in that case, and you would have an Omni Negate and also a Floodgate in Herald. But I don't know. So effect, you can reveal this card in your hand. Okay, that's easy. It's already in your hand. You drew it. Special summon a White Forest monster or Azamina monster from your hand. So does this mean we're going to get an Azamina main deck monster, or is it just Konami being Konami? So this, I think this is good, assuming that you were playing an actual White Forest deck, because then in that case, it's not really win more, because you wouldn't have to be searching the thing to special unless you're special summoning itself, which it can do, so that's fine. You are going to draw White Forest monsters if you're playing a White Forest deck. So I think that this helps. Like sometimes you want to reduce the ratios of maybe Sylvie in your deck because you're heavy on a Stellar, but then a Stellar is way worse if you don't have the toy stuff. So sometimes you're like, I wish that I had the Sylvie instead, or maybe I have to normal summon the Sylvie instead because it plays better into interruptions because it's like already a tuner. And then maybe you could extend with the LZ and you still be able to synchro climb. But with this card, you have like more flexibility for getting, basically like it's almost like getting a free additional normal summon just because of how the deck works, where a Stellar and Sylvie are powerhouse cards, depending on what the rest of your hand looks like. So I think that this first effect is good. During your main phase, you can fusion summon one Azamina fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material. Okay, I wish that this also said you don't just have to use monsters, you can also use Sinful Spoils cards, because that's what all of these cards do. All these cards send a Sinful Spoils card. And the reason that would be cool if they stuck like true to the mechanics of the like fusion summoning in Azamina so far, is you could like you could be sending a Sinful Spoils card like Wanted, and you could chain Wanted to the effect, and the Wanted would resolve, and you would still send this in the chain to the graveyard as part of the fusion summon, and so it would be more resource efficient, and there'd be like more cool stuff that the deck could do. So yeah, then what I think is probably the best effect is if this card is sent to the graveyard as synchro material, you can add a Sinful Spoils card from your deck to your hand. Now, I wish that this could also have added Azamina so that you could choose which one you wanted to add, and then this would be like truly the god card of the archetype. So the only problem that I have with this, and I don't know if I might be confused or overlooking something. So if you can figure this out, let me know in the comments. If this card is sent to the graveyard as synchro material, so not as fusion material, okay, only as synchro material, you can add a Sinful Spoils card from your deck to your hand. Okay, so let's say that I have like Sylvie and Azamina LZ in hand, and I, normal or special the Sylvie and normal or special the Azamina LZ. I can't use this effect to fuse and then get this card back, right? Like, how would I get that card back? And then if I use this card as synchro material, how do I get it back to do the fusion summon? And I'm not talking about some like super obscure play where like, I get back some illusion from grave off of some weird effect. I mean like an actual play, like a reliable play. So is this basically just like I'm forced to choose? What am I doing? How am I doing for time? Okay, I'm gonna try to wrap it up. I don't know. Maybe they've made it so that they want it to be a little bit flexible, and they want it to be not just like lore-wise, but also mechanics-wise, a bridge between the engines. But they don't want to make it so broken that you could use like all the effects in the same turn. So like, okay, all right. So realistically, what does this mean for White Forest? And I think this is like really the reason that like a lot of people are watching the channel. I think this means that Azamina White Forest can now be a deck. So when I was showing this version before and people were saying like, well, the Azamina cards are broken, but there's not like a huge amount of synergy. Now there actually is synergy. And I think the question is going to be, I think there are going to be two questions. There are going to be three questions, okay? So the first question is, how do you create your extra deck? Especially if you also want to play Fiendsmith cards. A lot of people don't like that, and a lot of people don't want deck profiles with Fiendsmith stuff in it. But the fact remains, the Deception combo into Murcielago and Closed Heaven and all that is like one of the craziest combos in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it is it requires so little resources and gives you so much more flexibility for what you can do with the rest of your hand. So even just having a single engraver in the main deck, and then like the 4-card package in the extra deck like is good. But then it's like, this deck does give you a lot of bodies, and you actually can link climb, and Celine actually is live now because of having like much more spell cards in your grave with the Wanted package and all that. So like going into access code and stuff is a lot easier. So I think that's like a big question. The other big question is, okay, if we're playing all of these new cards, and like let's say Azamina LZ is a 3 of, and then we're probably not playing these other cards. So the like the Diabell and play the Diabell, we're not playing those cards. Those cards are trash. Sinful Spoils of the White Forest, I could see an argument, especially if I've missed something, for this being a 1-of in the main deck. But I think that so far it's probably a 1-of in the side deck. Not meaning it's bad, just meaning that it's specifically for going first. We would be down a lot of space in the deck, because if you're adding this to your ratios, you don't need to cut down on your normals. So it's not like you want to only play one Sylvie per se, or like you have to only play one Sylvie or less a Stellar. But you also have no reason to cut down on the Wanted engine or the number of deceptions in your deck. And even if you're only playing one Hallowed Azamina, even if you didn't play Debtors, there's not a lot of space for non-engine now. And so I feel like the deck is going to be forced to play Breakers. And that's not a problem per se, but it does mean that if the meta does not favor Breakers, especially the type of Breakers that you want to play, then it's not going to be good for the deck. Another thing is the toy cards. What is the position of the toy cards? A card like a Stellar, for example, especially at 3 in like a pure White Forest type deck, wants to see either Box or Soldier in every single hand, to the point where in the pure versions, you not only play the 3-box, but you play the 3-soldier, and in some cases, you also play reinforcement to the army, just because it makes this card then play around hand traps very, very efficiently. So you don't care if they Imperm or Valor you on a Stella. That's what I always say if you have access to Soldier or a box. And if you don't have access to Soldier or a box, this card is actually trash, because Imperm and Valor and Ash are, you know, in almost every single deck besides the people that are playing Breakers. And so this is just a super unsafe normal summon. So it's like, do you take out the toy cards because now these two engines bridge with each other? I don't know. That feels like a very rough thing to do. And then the third thing that I'm wondering about is, what are the cards that we were overlooking before, or we had decided weren't good before because we didn't have, you know, like better bridges between the decks. So for example, Sinful Spoils Subdual. Take a level 5 or higher illusion monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or special summon it. But if you special summon it with this effect, you cannot activate its effects during the main phase. So like this card would bring out Diabels, for example. And what's kind of weird is that if you can't use its effects during the main phase, you can't use Diabel's Pop, but the Floodgate effect would still work, again, against like Sanguine Kaiman as the example. But the weird thing is you wouldn't want to add it to your hand because you can only special summon this from your hand if there's a Sinful Spoils card in your graveyard if it's your turn. This is not a quick effect. So that's kind of weird. I don't know. Maybe you could argue for this being like a side deck card too, and that being a side deck card. Then there's cards like Sinful Spoils of Betrayal. And by the way, the reason I'm mentioning these is that if you have more cards that search Sinful Spoils or Azamina cards, it means that there's a higher chance that you actually can search these other types of cards instead of being forced to go through just like the super simple route. So this one sends a Diabel Star monster from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard, then target one face-up card on the field and negate its effects. So like Scourge, this is like an anti-breaker card, but it also can negate whatever you want because it's just a face-up card you're targeting. And then when your opponent activates a card or effect in response to your Diabel Star monster effect or your Sinful Spoil spell/trap card or effect activation, you can banish this card from your grave and negate the opponent's effect. That's also quite a good effect, but I feel like this is like kind of becoming win more now, because this is like when you're first starting to play in your first turn is when it matters that people don't like negate your stuff. Whereas this would only really be useful in a grind. So I feel like this is probably going to be more. I don't think this is going to be used unless there's like more stuff with Diabel Star that I'm not thinking of, and there are ways to like keep this on the field and make it not bad. Yeah, because there are other cards. So this one, target a level 7 or higher spellcaster monster you control, apply the following effects. While face up, that monster is unaffected by other monsters' effects this turn. All monsters. Actually, wait, no, this one is trash. What was I thinking of? Oh, wait, no, sorry. The last effect was relevant. All monsters your opponent currently controls lose attack equal to the targeted monster's attack. Then if their attack becomes 0 by this effect, destroy them. So, you know, that could be useful against certain decks, potentially like Snake Eyes or Yubel or whatever. But again, it feels like you require a little bit too much setup for it. I think what actually could be good though, what was the name of this card? Was it this one? Target a face-up special summon monster on the field, change it to face-down defense position. If you control a level 5 or higher illusion monster while this card is in your graveyard, you can set this card but banish it when it leaves the field. Wait, actually this is not bad. Obviously not in the main, in the side deck, because a Sinful Spoils card, you could search it. It doesn't have the condition where you have to like have Diabel Star or some like specific type of monster to be able to use the Book of Moon effect. Okay, this might go in the side deck. And then if you had a level 5 or higher illusion monster, which would probably mean that you were cycling through Diabel. Wait, this is level 5 or higher? Sorry, where did this go? Level 5 or higher illusion monster. So that would actually be pretty easy to get back. And then it's banished when it leaves the field. Yeah, maybe this card could go into the side. Okay, what else were we thinking of? This one, if your opponent special summons a monster from the deck or extra deck and you control a Diabel Star monster card, target a monster your opponent controls, shuffle it into the deck. So this is one of those other things that requires you keep controlling it, and I'm not sure. Like, you could probably force yourself to play the deck this way, but it's probably not efficient. Another card that I think becomes better is Scourge of the White Forest. Now this is already in Rota, I'm pretty sure, but or it's out already. This card you would already have put in your side deck. In my opinion, it's not a main deck card. You tribute a Synchro Monster, target a face-up card on the field, negate its effects until the end of the turn. Then if you tributed a White Forest Synchro Monster to activate this effect, you can special summon an Illusion Monster from your graveyard. So this card, again, there are some more convoluted setups you could do with it where you like, you could special summon Diabells from your grave, but I think you should just be sticking to what is the simplest and most reliable and repeatable thing you can do every single turn. So this is similar to the kind of like this one, where you can negate something face up. But because you now have more names that search cards, I feel like this card is more likely to be searched. You know, because it's not like if you summon Sylvia and it gets negated, and then let's say you climb into Arciela, now you actually have to search the thing that was allowing your engine to play, or search for woes. But, you know, if you have multiple searches for these cards, it's more likely you're actually going to use them. And then this card, so this is the last thing that I wanted to go over. 20 minutes. So reveal an Azamina fusion monster in your extra deck, and for every 4 levels it has around down, shuffle a Sinful Spoils card from your graveyard and or banishment into the deck, special summon the revealed monster. It's treated as a fusion summon. And you can banish this card from your graveyard, target a Sinful Spoils spell or trap in your graveyard, set it, but it cannot be activated this turn. So this card, I think could be like a side deck card now, because again, if you have more names that search more things, it frees up certain effects, like for example Murcielago, which can add an Azamina or Sinful Spoils card from your deck to your hand to be able to search other things than what you were forced to search just for the combo to work. This one is also, so this is like a trap, but it is much more resource efficient than all of the other ways of fusion summoning the Azamina monsters, and it also makes it more likely because you're using grave or banished materials. So like even if you banish your Sinful Spoils, your Wanted Seeker of the Sinful Spoils, that still like counts as one of the things you can shuffle back with this. And you'd often in your opponent's turn have like the Hallowed Azamina and the banished Wanted in your graveyard at the very least. And then like a reset Deception in your graveyard. So I feel like you could consistently probably bring out Moa Regina. The question would just be how reliably can you trigger the proc? So when an Azamina or Sinful Spoils card or effect is activated, except itself, target up to 2 cards on the field, destroy them. So this card may still just be like 2 win more. But I'm going to end the video there because we're at 20 minutes. I will obviously be making a deck profile for this very shortly. I just haven't tested yet. So thanks for watching.